The Riley we knew is gone. And if Joy doesn't see that, Joy is delusional. Delusional? Of course, I am delusional. Do you know how hard it is to stay positive at all times? When all you folks do is complain, complain, and complain. Do you think I know all the answers? Of course I don't. We can't even find the back of our own mind. Anxiety is right. Riley doesn't need us as much as she needs them. And that hurts. It really does. Now, where does this sound familiar from? For you movie buffs out there, you might be recollecting your recent trip to the theatres where this rather touching scene might have made you shed a few tears. For the rest of you who are yet to catch up with the trends, this is Joy speaking in Inside Out 2. Going beyond the movie's details, this emotive exchange may already have or will now strike a chord with plenty of us. I mean, let me put this in the form of a list of questions for you to answer. How often do things around make you satisfied and happy instead of momentarily filling the vacuum until you move on to the next activity? When is the last time you cried? Do you let yourself cry often? Or are you one who's always happy no matter what the situation, no matter how the tide is, you always put up a smile? At least you always feel the need to. Well, if the answer to the last question is yes, for you, all the above questions have put you in a bit of a dilemma and maybe even a low-key existential crisis, this episode is for you. Welcome to For Your Information with Sriya, Kundu, and here we bring up all those awkward conversations, questions and subjects that have occurred to you and made you wonder as well, but they're still vague ideas in your heads. And today we connect the dots and deconstruct one such subject for you. Is toxic positivity a reality? Well, to begin with, what does this phrase mean exactly? The phrase toxic positivity roughly embodies a belief where people maintain a positive mindset towards the world around them, no matter how difficult a situation is. In fact, one might raise the question, what is the problem with being optimistic in life? Well, the problem isn't as much with the sentiment as it is with the genuineness behind it. People exhibiting such behavioral patterns are often not aware of it themselves. How so and why so? Well, the reason is that positivity is called toxic because it is a facade that one puts up. This particular positivity, that is. One rejects all their difficult emotions in a favor of a false sense of happiness they show, a bubble built around them, by them, for them. In fact, a study done in 1997 revealed that hiding one's emotion leads to more psychological stress. Emotional regulation is the key to maintaining one's mental health. Another study threw further light upon the paradoxical effect of thought suppression, and let me simplify this with an example. What is paradoxical about this? As a kid, we all would be asked not to eat too many candies or sugary sweets. Well, and inevitably, the very thought and mention of it would make us drool for these candies. Similarly, when we try our level best to not think about something consciously, it gets suppressed heavily into our subconscious, thus remaining there unprocessed. Pain and sorrow thus are a part and parcel of life. They keep us in touch with our reality as much as the emotions of joy and happiness do. Looking through the lens of biology, emotions are created by our brain. Each emotion, in fact, is located in specific parts of the brain. For example, the amygdala, which is the part of the limbic system, plays a role in processing emotional reactions and is supposed to be the fear center. Now, when the right stimuli is presented, specific emotions are triggered. These are expressed through facial expressions often. A person exhibiting toxic positivity doesn't expect or doesn't accept these exact triggers produced, but replaces all these emotions with optimism. It is an overly generalized extreme that one indulges in, denying the traces of any other emotion. In fact, I'm sure you've all heard the common phrase, good vibes only. In the recent past, social media was full of posts on look on the bright side, be grateful for what you have. The pandemic was a time like no other when we had seen such posts. people were stuck within the boundaries of their houses indefinitely, or at least that's what it looked like back then. Keeping oneself mentally motivated no matter what phase of their lives they were in had become extremely difficult. After all, one needs to understand that humans are social beings and isolated living isn't what they are conditioned for. Most people's mental health had hit a rough spot, with many even plummeting to rock bottom. And during such a time, social media was full of people sharing positive stories from their lives, both pre-pandemic and during the pandemic. In fact, influencers would constantly be talking about sending positive energy, asking people to keep a positive mindset. People were made aware of conversations on mental health, definitely. More and more people began to share their experiences. But the motive behind sharing these experiences wasn't to get lectures on how to stay positive at such times. It was more of a venting experiment they had begun, after all, and social media had become their only means of any kind of social communication at that time. So what had started as a harmless social exercise of engaging and interacting with people quickly turned into a wave of toxic positivity. And lifestyle influencers have never been too far behind the trend. Likewise, this trend of toxic positivity became a hit among young influencers. With advanced technology becoming a crucial part of people's lives, social media has had a dominating presence. And the biggest advantage of using social media has now, in fact, become a glaring drawback as well. Given the habit that influencers have developed of being candid on social media, consumers take everything at face value. So when one is posting about how perfect their life is, with a happy family, satisfying jobs, access to luxury products, top-notch facilities, beautiful vacations, and scrumptious meals, they seem to have it all figured out. What this in turn makes people believe is unrealistic expectations of the world. There's a pressure that people build on themselves under such circumstances to live up to these expectations that they have built for themselves and live the perfectly happy life. An American sociologist, C.H. Cooley, had spelled out the looking glass theory, a similar theory of this sort. In this, one's identity comes from what others think of them, how they are perceived by society, all of which is based on interactions that they have with their society. If society constantly feeds someone with the need to remain happy under all circumstances, they will eventually inculcate that behavior within themselves, as per the looking glass theory. And this way, an identity is formed where they are considered to be a happy-go-lucky person no matter what they are going through in life. And then they are stuck in that self-created loop of everyone around me is happy, I am happy. And this is dangerous for anyone and everyone in society. Why? Because at the end of the day, we aren't letting ourselves feel, we aren't being real with ourselves. Now let's understand the word toxic in the phrase of toxic positivity and why it has been used that way. There's an increased pressure to be productive under all circumstances, and this often makes people feel ashamed, isolated, flawed, and inadequate, and forces them to suppress their true feelings. At times like this, instead of processing these emotions, people go to social media and scroll through messages like just be positive and abandon their true emotions. And this is a trend that started especially during the pandemic. Moreover, this also brought in another fad of therapy dupes. What are therapy dupes? It is a temporary fix of sorts achieved through a quick dopamine release from engaging in activities like dyeing your hair, organizing your closet, buying new pens, and listening to music in your car. Retail therapy, as we call it. Remember the movie Shopaholic? Well, yes, the dopamine boost of ordering a new top online definitely helps overcome sadness immediately. I know it works for me. But the most important word in the description that we just spelled out for you is the word temporary. These activities end up pushing the negative emotions to the back of your mind and thus never allow you to heal or introspect it. It completely negates the saying, it's okay to not be okay. These trends are all signs that we aren't necessarily practicing emotional realism, which is what we think we are doing. Alternate to toxic positivity needs to be more than just some bad feelings are fine sometimes. Actual emotional realism means accepting that our feelings have a life of their own and that they don't always fit into the neat categories we create for them. We also need to learn to listen to them rather than try to boss them around. Emotional management. Just because we feel something we shouldn't feel doesn't mean the feeling is wrong. And one such example is Joy from Inside Out herself. However, there's a thin line that differentiates toxic positivity from emotional realism. Accepting one's negative feelings and processing them doesn't mean one shouldn't strive to be happy. Striving for happiness by keeping oneself motivated naturally is healthy. However, to assume one's feelings and feel guilty about them isn't what emotional realism is all about. One should learn to strike this balance to be expressive in the ways they want to. As humans, we aren't meant to be perfect or emotionally docile. Time, after all, is the biggest of all healers, and it will help out the negative emotions. But that can only happen when you let yourself process and accept those emotions. And for now, this was your time with me on For Your Information. I'll leave you behind with a thought-provoking note again, some questions for you again. Have you ever found yourself endorsing toxically positive behavior? Or are you one to respect your feelings and allow yourself to heal when you need to?